Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Make sure to follow us on Discord and stop by TSJ101sports.com, where the Pro Wrestling Podcast is the official wrestling podcast of TSJ Sports. But it's not just wrestling. They have everything you could possibly want in the world of basketball, baseball, football, hockey, you name it. They've got it. College sports. Go to TSJ101sports.com. Guys, are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately and go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family and want your name in the shout-outs like our buddy Mike in Lansdale, then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. We got loyalty rewards, $15 a month contributors. You get to co-host an episode of one of our live shows. Our $7.50 a month contributors, you get entered into a drawing to possibly also host a live episode with myself. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you got questions, comments, anything you want us to talk about in a future episode, give us a shout at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160. Leave your questions, your comments, anything you want us to talk about at that talk-to-text service, and we'll get to as many of those as we can in a future show. Don't forget to head over to the homepage of the Pro Wrestling Podcast at frowrestling.com. That's F-R-O wrestling.com, and that's where you can preview all the things related to the Pro Wrestling Podcast. It's a great way for you to come up with some questions and sign up for our mailing list so you can send us things you want us to bring to the show. We love to hear from you guys and incorporate the things that are important to you. Got a lot of things to talk about today. It's been a little while since we've been on the air. Had a lot of things going on, but we want to get to first. We're going to get this out of the way right away. I have so much love and respect for the career of Tracy Smothers, who unfortunately passed away this week. And let's be honest, a young man. That's 58 is young. Tracy Smothers did many things in the world of professional wrestling that may get overlooked. I don't think people realize the veteran presence he brought to a locker room, the way he would work with other people trying to cultivate a new generation of wrestlers, the time he spent in WWE, AEW, could only dream of having somebody like this working for them nowadays. He worked with WCW. He worked with Impact. He worked with ECW. This guy has worked with everybody, and it would have been great for him to get a chance to work with AEW because the wealth of knowledge that he brought to the sport was incredible. And unfortunately, he was not able to conquer his cancer diagnosis from a couple years ago. And unfortunately, it took his life this week. So we send our deepest condolences to Tracy Smothers' family and his fans, and he is one that I think a lot of people may overlook how important he is to the world of professional wrestling and the history of professional wrestling. I'm going to get into a couple topics tonight. One is about AEW Dynamite. This week, losing to NXT in the ratings war. That doesn't happen often, and a lot of people right away are dismissing it, saying, oh, well, AEW is taped, whereas NXT was a live show. I get it. The Uber fans read spoilers on the internet more than anybody, but the mainstream wrestling audience is not as into it as you and I are. They don't pay attention to all the spoilers. They watch the shows each week based on whatever they feel is going to be the best entertainment value. Now, let's be honest. Just because I already knew going into AEW Dynamite that Cody was going to beat Orange Cassidy, I still want to see how it happens. Now, personally, on the topic of Cody versus Orange Cassidy, I'm incredibly frustrated with AEW's booking of Orange Cassidy lately. You put him into an incredible program with Chris Jericho, you really set him up to be a main event level star in your company, and then you have him job out to Cody, who I understand it looks like they're flirting with the idea of Cody having a heel turn, possibly doing like a Four Horsemen type storyline, teaming with FTR and maybe Kenny Omega. That seems to be a vibe that I'm getting from the show. But I don't like the squashing. I shouldn't say the squashing because it was a decent match, but I don't like the the loss going to Orange Cassidy. If anything, this could have been a schmoz ending where Orange Cassidy walked away with his hand raised but didn't win the TNT title, leaving the door open for a future match. Now, at the same time, I actually enjoyed the Kenny Omega and Penta L0 Medio, whatever you want to call him. I'm calling him Pentagon Jr. If you wanted to watch a great wrestling match, that match delivered. It was incredible. Obviously, we knew all along this tournament, the minute that it was booked, that it was going to come down to Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. The issue I have is the fans need something they can't see coming. And AEW is getting less and less prevalent with the storylines that we can't see the outcome coming. Look at the MJF versus Chris Jericho situation. They're going to wrestle at Full Gear. If MJF wins, he's going to get to join the Inner Circle. That sounds great, but what is the end game of this? Is this one of those things where MJF is going to join the Inner Circle, take over, and kick Jericho out? Is this one of those things where he's going to join Jericho and there's going to be some issue with, Santana and Ortiz? That would be asinine, if you ask me, and a horrible use of the angle. What happens with Wardlow if MJF does join the Inner Circle? There's just so much uncertainty around that angle that makes it more compelling, whereas the Kenny Omega and Hangman Page situation, we could see that coming a mile away. Okay, there was no shock there. Speaking of the Inner Circle, I hope everybody is tuning in tonight to see Jake Hager in his return to Bellator at Bellator 250. Good luck to Jake Hager. We wish him well this evening. But otherwise, there was a lot of good things on AEW. There's so many things they're missing. For example, you have a women's champion. Why are you featuring the NWA women's champion on your show? You have a champion. And then after you feature the NWA women's champion, you go and put your champion out on the program, challenging someone she beat for the title who has not earned anything since losing that championship. So it just doesn't make sense from a creative standpoint. I have no problem with AEW's in-ring product. I have a problem with their ability to create compelling storylines and fostering them almost as bad as WWE. It really feels like lately it's been a mishmash of let's just throw things together and hope something sticks. And I don't like that approach to the wrestling business. I don't think it serves the wrestlers well. On the WWE side of things, I was perfectly fine with Johnny Gargano becoming a two-time North American champion on NXT. I think he deserves it. He's an incredible talent, and the fans are clearly behind him. I was a little surprised that there wasn't a change of the NXT Women's Championship as well. I thought the two of them would have really done well as being top draws on the male and female roster at the same time. I think that would have been a very good storyline to run with Candice LeRae. I loved the angle with Pete Dunne turning heel. I think that's incredible. He was jacked. I think one of the commentators actually said he looked jacked, but he really looked amazing. He didn't look like the almost thick, pudgy guy I remember from the original tournament to crown the first UK champion. He looked awesome. Now, the heel turn, I see what they're doing, creating this faction to go against the Undisputed Era. I like the angle. I don't really like Pat McAfee's ring skills. And I mean, he does a few nifty moves when he had his match at TakeOver, and I'm not totally sold on his mic work. I think it's good, but I don't know if it's on par with someone who should be instantly put into a situation for a long-term program with the Undisputed Era. I just don't. I'm not feeling the same vibe that maybe some other people are feeling. It's a little perplexing to me. I thought a lot of the rest of the NXT show, which was Halloween Havoc themed, was a little hokey. This zombies climbing into the ring during the Loomis match, I could have done without that. The Scream face mask thing, I could have done without that as well. But the rest of the show was relatively solid. I was okay with that. So kudos to WWE putting together some decent matches and, of course, dropping the ball on other segments. It's better than Raw was this week. Raw was a complete snore fest this week. So having NXT be pretty solid was exciting for me. Other WWE news, Matt Riddle. No longer. It's just Riddle. I saw his post on Twitter where he said, to most people, I've been Riddle all along anyway, so I'm good with it. I get it. I understand it. But it just seems so laborious and unnecessary to keep dropping first names like they mean nothing. It's just stupid. It's dumb booking. It's dumb planning. I don't understand why we're going there. But whatever. Matt Riddle seems okay with it. You know it has to do with copyright. They're not going to be able to. I don't know if anybody saw in the news, but this week they got rejected on a bunch of their copyright requests for people's real names. Well, maybe that's why they do that, so that they can copyright the name Riddle, and that way they don't have to try to copyright Matt Riddle. Whatever. It's so over ridiculous with WWE anymore. If you didn't notice, AJ Styles deactivated his Twitter and his Twitch, and all those things are being deactivated right now because of WWE wanting to take control of everything. Like, you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. There is no reason to be going after every nickel and dime that these wrestlers make on their personal time. It's absolutely ludicrous to me. And they've been going through this process for a couple months now. It's time to move past that. Last thing of the night I want to get to, the conversation about Thunder Rosa. She lost the NWA Women's Championship to Serena Deeb this past weekend. And then, of course, Serena Deeb successfully defended the title on Dynamite. Thunder Rosa would be an incredible addition to any roster. But the conversation, she put some pictures online with where next, and she had AEW, WWE, and NWA like on her hip or whatever. I don't care where she goes, but I don't like her trying to sell to people that she could even potentially go to WWE or AEW if she's still under contract through 2021 with the NWA, because it builds up a false hope. Because no matter how much you like the NWA, AEW and WWE are bigger places to apply your craft and a bigger audience. It would make people very happy to see her in some dream matches in those organizations. And if Billy Corgan came out and said, no, she's with me through 2021, now I think she could probably get out of that deal because they're not running shows, and that would be an issue if she took it to court and fought for the right to earn a living and things of that nature. Not to mention the amount of money he pays is insanely low to begin with. I believe that in some way, shape, or form, she, if she wants to, can get out of her contract if she hasn't already, and maybe he just doesn't want to announce that. The other thing for me is that when it comes to Thunder Rosa, the opportunity to wrestle for AEW, I don't know why that's even a part of the tease. She already wrestled for AEW. There was no need for a change if you were going to wrestle with AEW. Just stay with the NWA and keep doing what you're doing. The really weird part about this is apparently All Elite Wrestling knew about the title change for the NWA Women's Championship a while ago because they taped Dynamite before this week, and Rosa didn't lose the championship till this past weekend. So they videotaped Serena Deeb with the championship, even though she hadn't actually won it yet, so that it would play this past Wednesday and work chronologically. But fans who like you and I, who are diehards, we figure these things out. We realize that this is, pulling the wool over your eyes kind of thing. She lost the title at the UWN Primetime Live event. And at this point, we just need the NWA to get back to work. But I really am hoping that she finds a way to get to either AEW or WWE on a more permanent basis. The other option, obviously, would be Impact Wrestling, where I think she could also make a massive impact, no pun intended. But I don't see the NWA as a viable option in the prime of her career for one of the most talented ladies in the business. Maybe that doesn't come across right. Maybe she's doing it just so that when she chooses to stay in the NWA, it in some way is supposed to inject some life into their viability versus their competition. But I think that would be a really weak angle to run. If she legitimately has a contract through 2021, don't do the tease. If she has already requested and been granted her release, just move on with it and don't BS us and tell us that she's still under contract. That's kind of ludicrous. Either way, it'll be curious to see where Thunder Rosa ends up very soon. That's all the time we have for this episode, but check back with us next episode where we run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the sound effects and music that we might use in any of our episodes. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and click the icon in the middle of the screen. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college or university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, make sure you check out TSJ101sports.com for their articles on pro wrestling and all things sports. And if you're looking for a new read, this is a new plug for me. My first children's book has come out. Check it out on Amazon.com, Blurb.com, Barnes & Noble. It is called Frobble the Brotherhood. Check that out, and I would love to hear your feedback about the book. That's all the time we have tonight. Take care, everybody, and I will speak to you on the next episode.